Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
And welcome to another edition of the Captain's Corner. I'm Sean Nicholas and I'm here with the Captain, Harold Lovell, and we'll be with you for the next hour. And we invite you to join in, be a part of it, share the live, call your friends, call your family, tell them the Captain's Corner is on. Of course, also to our listeners on Progressive 107.3 FM, we want to say a very special welcome to you as well. Captain Harold Lovell, good evening.
Oh, it's a great time to be here. We had a wonderful time yesterday with the launch. The party's on a roll.
Yes.
I'm on a high. It's beautiful.
Very, very good. Before we get into yesterday's, because, I'll take a little quick look back at yesterday's launch. We start out with your constituency. What's the latest happening in St. John City East?
Yes, well, let me take the opportunity, first of all, to give a big shout out to all my people in St. John City East, especially the young folks in St. John City East. I want to once again, assure them that better days are coming as far as the change of government is concerned, a new dispensation, a new representative for St. John City East. And I also want to say, look, one of the main problems that people are complaining about in the constituency, they started the works regarding the bridges and so on. And everybody knows how that came about with regard to grant funding and so on. So fine, we're all happy for that. But there doesn't seem to be any plan, and everybody's complaining now. And just today, there was an issue where they were pumping water from a particular part into another part. It's almost as though you dip water from one bucket and just throw it to another bucket. The roadworks over at Anchorage Road, those are stalled. Nothing is happening. It appears as though there is some problem as far as the financing is concerned. And it just seems like the government is just stumbling along.
But what sort of communication, if any, has been had with the members of the community, the people who are affected?
That is the main issue. No communication. People just wake up and then they meet a road blocked. It's an obstacle course. You probably know that. The member of parliament for the area has been missing in action. And I'm very, very comfortable that the work that the party has been doing in terms of putting out our programs and the work that I have been doing in interacting, mingling, and just feeling the love and feeling the vibe in the community. It's a community that I really love, people I love. And it's just something that, as far as I'm concerned, the clock is ticking and the writing is on the wall. So big up to all my folks over in St. John City East. As we go along in today's program, We will hear some of the programs for the United Progressive Party, which will impact especially the youth in St. John City East, because that's the cry in the community. As you walk around, all my young friends, they're saying no work, no hope, nothing under this ALP administration. So special big up to my brethren, Jules, watching you.
Okay, very good. Well, in your preamble, you made mention of yesterday's launch, very successful launch of the UPP Book of Achievements. Let's look back. You must be, I heard Madam Chair saying that she felt so proud. She felt like, you know, she could just stay home all day yesterday and sip wine. What was your reaction following yesterday's launch?
Yes, you never know until you see it documented. And looking at the achievements over the 10-year period, the Labour Party has been blown out of the water. I gather that they're trying to put together some sort of document. I want to see it because everybody can see between 2004 and 2014, compare it to 2014 to the present. There's no comparison. But you've heard them already. They're trying to already throw shade on our programs and our achievements. But that's to be expected.
Yes.
You know, that's to be expected.
And at least it encourages discussion.
It encourages discussion, but they know in this game, they've definitely lost the battle.
Yes.
They've definitely lost the fight.
Okay. There might be those, I know we had an extensive program yesterday on it, so we wouldn't go over a lot of what was said, but there might be people who are interested in getting copies of this, and I will tell you that the requests have been many.
Yes, and we had intended originally to make it primarily a virtual magazine, online magazine. However, the requests for the hard copy have been so strong that we have decided that we will do some runs, and these will be available at the Secretariat of the United Progressive Party up at Belmont, and they will be available at a cost of $50. So we've already had many requests, so we're just saying, yes, we will have the print runs done, and they can be had at the party secretariat, and there's a small cover charge, $50 to cover the printing cost.
And I would just add that person should call ahead first, leave your number, and as they become available, because it's on a first come, first serve basis, you call 462-1818, you leave your name and number, and then of course we'll call you back, you know, when your copy is ready. So very good. Tomorrow, we're observing International Youth Day. And I think we in Antigua and Barbuda, particularly in the UPP, will be very much involved in this as well, where our progressive youth is concerned. Let me hear your thoughts, first of all, in terms of the observance of Youth Day and what this should mean to our young people. And then we take it as to the party's plans for our young people.
Yes. I want to say that tomorrow is a very important day. And I salute all the young people of Antigua and Barbuda on the occasion of International Youth Day, which comes up tomorrow. It's a day when we are able to focus on the important role of youth and to recognize that the young people of the world today are really dictating the trends and dictating exactly where governments and peoples really ought to be focusing their attention on the future. So for our young people, I want to recognize, and I think it's important as I say that, to also notice that there are a number of things that with this administration, we are not seeing any positive programs for the development of our young people. There have been no innovative programs to take our young people to the next level. We've actually reached a point where young people today going to school, graduating with 6, 7, and 8 subjects, and coming out with no hope, no prospects, and we need a government that will put plans in place in order to take our young people to the next level. Having attained their basic education in school, we now need to have a plan that will allow our young people to realize and fulfill their true potential. And that's really where the UPP is focusing its attention so that once we have the elections, once the UPP administration is elected, we will be doing a number of things, which I will mention in a moment, in order to empower our young people. And that's really the name of the game, the empowerment of our youth.
But we must pay particular attention and give recognition to that body of young people we call the progressive youth, and the work they have been doing in terms of highlighting the needs of young people. And as you say, the whole issue of empowerment of our young people.
That's right. And, you know, nothing happens before its time, but I've been around the party for a while. And the current crop of youth that we have in the progressive youth, it pleases my heart. It pleases my heart. They are so tuned on. They are so aware of what's happening, articulate, they're bright, they are conscious and patriotic. And I want to really congratulate the executive and members of Progressive Youth. I want to wish them all well and to encourage them to really continue in the way that they're going at the moment, because the boundless energy that I'm witnessing, that's such a good sign. With a change of government, we will need the energy of our young people. And we need not just energy, but we need focused energy. And the progressive youth bring that focused energy that we will be able to utilize in order to maximize the benefits for the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
So when we speak of a future for youth under the United Progressive Party, what exactly can our young people look forward to?
Yes. Well, we have a number of very exciting and innovative ideas that we want to implement. First of all, in order to have a strong youth-focused administration, there are a number of things that we want to do. And I want to also mention, before I even go into those details, that one thing that makes me very happy is that the current slate of the United Progressive Party is very youth-oriented. We have a lot of young people on the slate for the UPP in the upcoming elections, and I think that augurs well for the future. But there are a number of areas that we want to emphasize, and we make no bones about it. We do not apologize for the fact that we will pursue a program of affirmative action for young people. We will do things consciously in order to propel young people in administration, in order to prepare young people so that they will be the ones in very short order to be taking over the reins in almost every respect. So we're looking to set a number of targets. Obviously, we have to make sure that we set these targets. These are things that we're going to aim for. For example, getting young people into public administration. What does that mean? It means that in the Senate, I can guarantee that a new UPP administration will have at least 25% of our senators who will be young people, youth. And by youth, we are saying between the ages of 18 and 35. Between the ages of 18 and 35, in the Senate, we're going to make sure at least 25% are young people. Then we're going to make sure also that as far as board appointments are concerned, we are going to have at least 25%. Certainly this is what we'll aim for, to have at least 25% of the composition of all boards appointed under UPP administration to be between the ages of 18 and 35. And then here is where we're going to really scout for that unusual talent that we know is out there, that we are now witnessing, and that's the leadership talent. And we want to make sure that at least 10% of the chairpersons and the vice chairs of boards under UPP administration will come from that group of persons between the ages of 18 and 35. And then, you know, there are so many committees that will come up from time to time that are important for public administration. And here again, we're going to use a target of 25%, and that's what we will aspire to achieve so that we can have good, strong youth representation at all the major decision-making, on all the major decision-making panels that constitute public administration in Antigua and Barbuda. So it will be a policy, a deliberate policy of affirmative action, deliberately promoting young people and getting young people into positions of leadership. That's going to be very exciting. And I just want to tell the youth of Antigua and Barbuda that there is hope for you. There is a future for you with the United Progressive Party here in Antigua and Barbuda.
So the future looks bright for our young people.
Oh, definitely.
Under UPP administration.
Definitely, definitely. And as I said, this is not just saying we'll try to do this or we'll try to do that. We are setting benchmarks. We are setting targets that we'll seek to achieve. And I've run these ideas by persons not only in Antigua, but persons who are based overseas, persons who operate within international organizations, and who know what the international trends are. And the international trend today is really getting more young people into leadership and into governance as a whole. So we're going to be very much a part of that to make sure that our young people are not left behind.
Okay. So as we celebrate International Youth Day, what is your message to our young people?
My message to the young people is that the world is rapidly changing. Rapidly changing in terms of technology, and it is the young who are really driving these technological changes. You look around the world today, most of the innovative entrepreneurs are persons who are under 40 years of age. There are opportunities, especially in information technology, that we will harness to allow our young people to broaden their scope, to have a wide array of opportunities available to them. And so we want to put a lot of emphasis on new areas of the economy that will be youth-focused and which currently are driven by our young people. And obviously, information technology, that is going to be one of the main areas. And so a UPP administration will put a lot of emphasis in that area. But we also want to be to assure our young people that some of the programs that you've heard us talk about, we will have the opportunity to implement those by having targeted programs. For example, the Citizenship by Investment program, we will set aside 10% of the revenues from the Citizenship by Investment program into a special youth development fund. The purpose of that will be to provide funding for young people, funding for micro businesses, giving young people grants to start their own operations in whatever field that they prefer to advance in agriculture, information technology, in tourism, in business generally. So instead of having this as the current situation exists, where so many people complain about the lack of resources for young people to be able to get into business and to be able to get on their feet, the UPP, we will put aside 10% of all the revenues that come in from the CIP, and those revenues, that 10%, will go into a youth development fund, especially for the development and advancement of our young people. And we've spoken about the YES program, the Young Entrepreneur Setup. I can say that for our young people, we will have an arrangement whereby the investment authority will be responsible for helping our young people to set up their own businesses, and not just set it up, but to help you with your accounting, help you with your back office operations, help you with your marketing, help you with your feasibility studies, your business plans, really help you to be successful. These are exciting opportunities that we're really looking forward to implementing for the benefit of the young people of Antigua and Barbuda.
Okay. And as we talk about our young people, we had two situations in the news this week where we had two young men. One lost his life in a tragic accident, and another one who is currently in an unconscious state at the hospital, having fallen off the back of a truck. What do you have to say to the family of those two young men?
I want to extend my concern and my sympathy, especially in respect of the young man who lost his life in an unfortunate and tragic car accident. I want to say to the parents of the young man, who I understand is still in a coma, I want to say that we empathize, we sympathize, and we understand the pain that you must be going through. And I want you to be assured that we in the United Progressive Party, we're there, and we want to make sure that going forward, we can be a force so that we prevent these as much as possible by encouraging and educating our young people to be more careful. Youth sometimes comes with a certain amount of exuberance. And I want to personally, as a father myself, say to our young people that we have to be very careful. Slow down. Sometimes we have to just take it easy and be very careful, because life is so precious. And when we lose any life, especially in tragic circumstances, it impacts everyone around and creates sadness within our communities. I want to send a special word of solidarity and support to Travon Elion, who is currently in the hospital. He'll be undergoing an operation. He's from the St. John City East constituency. And I just want to say to the young brother that, we're wishing you all the best, and we're wishing you a successful procedure in the hospital. And we trust that everything will go well, and you are in our thoughts and you're in our prayers. So stand firm and have faith, and all will be well, my brother.
Okay, if we are to switch gears a bit, this week marked the observance of 8/8. Last year, Sunday, the 8th of August 2021, we had what had become known as Black Sunday in Antigua and Barbuda. And for many people, it was more than just a group of protesters and persons who were protesting against mandatory vaccine, but it brought to sharp focus the role, responsibilities of the police force, of leadership of this country. Quite a number of issues came to the fore. I would like for you to help us cast our minds back, as this week marked that first anniversary of, that dark day in Antigua and Barbuda.
Indeed, that tragic day, tear gas Sunday, or some would say T Day, a day of infamy. I still get shivers when I think and I hear those screams and those cries on that fateful Sunday, when persons gathered to express themselves peacefully. And I want to emphasize peacefully, because sometimes we get carried away thinking that the right to peaceful assembly is something for which permission must be sought. And I want to dispel that notion. We start, first of all, with the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda. And the Constitution provides the right to freedom of assembly. Now, yes, those rights can be limited, but those rights, and the right in particular to freedom of assembly and the right to assemble peacefully, can only be taken away for good cause. And any way in which you limit or restrict the rights of people, it must be reasonable. Now, there are certain cases where, for example, the Public Order Act does indeed restrict those freedoms, but it restricts the freedom in relation to a public march. It restricts the freedom in relation to a public meeting. On that day, they were having neither a public march nor a public meeting. They organized a picket. A picket is a peaceful assembly. When you gather for a picket, once you do not block traffic, interfere with people, or create public disorder, you have a right to do that. Nobody's to touch you. Nobody's to stop you. We live in a free society. And I was very disturbed that persons could gather And whether you agree with what they're gathering for or not is completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. You don't have to agree. But you must allow people the right to express themselves once it is done peacefully. So on that Sunday, and on the 8th of this month, it marked 1 year. We will never forget the cries. We will never forget the shouts. We will never forget people running. We will never forget the rubber bullets. Rubber bullets. And I have to say that for 10 years the UPP was in government, and nobody can point to any instance when the police under UPP administration ever used rubber bullets or tear gas on our people. We never, in fact, as far as I didn't even know you had rubber bullets in the arsenal here in Antigua. I was not aware that we had reached the point where we were using rubber bullets on people. But I can say proudly that as a UPP administration, as we celebrate our own achievements during our term, at no time did we ever have to turn the guns of the police firing rubber bullets at people. And at no time did we ever have to use tear gas on our people. And it was not only the protesters who were gassed, it was the communities surrounding the area down on Lower Market Street into Golden Grove, Grace Farm, Green Bay, Otters, all of these places where rubber bullets and tear gas was used. I think that in many ways was a nail or several nails in the coffin of the Antigua Labour Party, where they showed their true colors as a brutal government, brutal government, brutal government.
What then, for those who endured it, for those who are observers, for the rest of us as community, as a nation, what should be our takeaway from that incident going forward?
Our main takeaway is that we cannot allow our country to descend into a police state. We're a democratic country, and we must cherish the democratic values, the constitutional provisions, and the rights of our people. Cherish those rights and freedoms, guard them, and be vigilant, because the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And so we have already put on the table a number of issues and a number of measures that we intend to implement immediately. First, for those persons who were denied 2 months' salary because they resisted the forced mandate as public servants, we are going to pay them their 2 months' pay, the same way it was done in Grenada, for example. We applaud that. We are also going to carry out a full investigation into what happened on that day. We want to know what really caused rubber bullets and tear gas to be used in communities and on peaceful protesters when there was no need for that to happen. And we're calling on the prosecutors to really look at those charges again. Those charges came out of a peaceful assembly, and really and truly, they should be dropped. And we're calling on the prosecutors to review their files and to withdraw the charges against the persons who have been charged and who are facing trial in relation to the incident that took place on the 8th of August. So these are things that we are calling for, and we are saying and giving an absolute guarantee that a UPP administration will respect people's right to choose, will respect people's freedom, will respect people's constitutional liberty. These are things that are non-negotiable, and the UPP administration will certainly go all out to protect, defend, and respect those freedoms and rights.
Okay, I think we have that point where we can take a break. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll discuss this a little bit more and then move on to some other areas of discussion. We'll be right back.
Today, tomorrow, together. It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
And we say welcome back to the Captain's Corner, and we're hoping that you would share the live to all your friends, families, calling up everyone who are not on social media to listen, tune in to Progressive 107.3 FM. Before the break, we were talking about the role of the police force in terms of, public order, where that is concerned. But you wanted to make an additional point in terms of
I wanted to make a point in terms of the criminal justice system. Just a brief point, that the criminal justice system affects mainly our young people. And so it's relevant, and it's something that we need to consider as we go into International Youth Day, or Day of Youth, that we need to find alternative ways to deal with our young people who fall into trouble. Sometimes you can say almost mischief. That jail cannot be the only option. And there's been a lot of talk about alternative sentencing, but it's just talk. Nothing has happened. And so we want to give a very firm assurance that within the first 100 days of a UPP administration, we will introduce community service as an alternative form of punishment. We look at what's happening in the prison. The prison, we all know, is way below par, way below standard. And so we should not be hurrying to send people into prison unless it is absolutely necessary to deprive a person of their liberty. However, we understand that punishment is necessary where any crime is committed in order to maintain law and order in any society. But community service, you go to several modern societies and you will see, maybe on a Saturday, on a Sunday, during the week, persons will have on a bright orange shirt or bright yellow or something that tells the world, I am undergoing punishment. And so the country could do with a good cleanup, needs to be regularly cleaned. And so community service is a punishment that is really necessary right now in Antigua. The need is there, and instead of overcrowding the prison, we should be giving more people community service. Give them a broom, give them a shovel, give them the tools in order to keep the country clean. That's a much more effective way. Everybody benefits. The person, they don't escape the fact that people will know, and that's really the punishment, because it's not something that you're going to hide, because the whole idea with this type of punishment is that you must be held up to the public as somebody who has committed an offense. That's the punishment. It's a sort of name and shame in a kind of way. But it's less burdensome on the individual and on the society than putting them in prison and turning them into a criminal who has been imprisoned, and when they come out of prison, the whole stigma of imprisonment and so on is going to follow them. So community service. And we will do that for sure. And we want to also say that when the police, for example, were putting their attention at trying to jail people for participating in a peaceful process, protest, you look at what happened recently when they discovered that phones that had been stolen in a recent break-in at one of the two of the service providers for cell phones and other mobile services, that the phones were found in the prison. No, that has to be one of the weirdest things ever, that the phones were found in the prison. How did the phones get in there? There's some people who are speculating that persons probably broke out of prison, committed the offense, and came back in. But I don't know if that is true, so I don't want to state it as a fact, but it gives rise to speculation. And the other thing I want to say is that the amount of weapons that were recently recovered from the prison, that's a serious matter. And you have to ask who's in charge. The Minister of National Security is obviously sleeping at the wheel. What's going on in this country? What's going on in this country? And, you know, the effort that they're putting into trying to jail people for protesting peacefully, they need to put the effort where it belongs, keeping people in the country safe. We're seeing a spike in gun crimes, for example. We need the police to get more support, give the police more support and more direction in terms of what they're supposed to do to help to keep our people safe by more policing in the communities. Not in a way that is threatening, but it's in a way that is protective. I spoke about that recently, as you know. But we need to emphasize more protective policing and less oppressive policing.
You were quoted in the news media recently referring to what you call the politicization of water tank distribution. We know there's a situation where, whether it is to address the shortage of water that we are experiencing now, or otherwise, that there is a program now where persons are being afforded water tanks or given water tanks for free. Let us talk to that and your issues, the issues that you're having with
Yes, another disgraceful chapter in the term of this administration. They do nothing right. Now, 8 years have passed, and they didn't see it fit to provide water tanks for people 4 years ago. They didn't see it fit to provide water tanks for people when people have been suffering and enduring their inefficiency and their utter neglect of the service that people deserve as water, providing the service of water to people. They couldn't do anything for 8 years. It was as though, you know, you just sit on your hands and say, what you want us to do? There's a drought, blaming the drought for everything, doing nothing. And now, just before an election, they are out there distributing water tanks. Now, there's nothing wrong with distributing water tanks. It's the way in which it is being done. Because if people are suffering and people need to have water tanks for storage, this is something that should have been done years ago. They're doing it on the eve of an election, and they have to be very careful because the way in which they're doing it is contrary to all the principles of good governance and doing things right. If people are in need of water tanks, you need a proper system that those people who are in need will get their water tank regardless of their political affiliation. Right now, the whole thing is so skewed that when you go into constituencies where the candidate for the Labour Party who's not yet elected is there giving out water tanks, as though the Labour Party paid for these water tanks. If they buy water tanks and they pay for water tanks, there's nothing wrong. Give out your water tanks. But when your hard-earned dollars are paying for that water tank, if a friendly country donates to the nation water tanks, you have a duty to set up a system, like when we did school meals. School meals is for Tutmu Saman Bagay, everybody. When we do school uniform is for everybody. We don't pick and choose. No minister is going and say, uniform for you, no uniform for you. Uniform for you and you, but none for this one over here. Ridiculous. If you have water tanks, and the water tanks are to provide storage of water for people in need, set up a system that has no political color to it, no political affiliation.
And some system of needs assessment.
And there must be a system of needs assessment. You need to have an assessment of who really needs it. So the people who need the water tank will get the water tank. In the City East constituency, the representative is so desperate on the eve of an election, he's there giving out tanks to people in the hope that giving them a tank, they're going to vote for him. But he has to be careful because an election is around the corner. We do not know when the election is going to be, but we know for sure the election is around the corner. And if it can be seen that these tanks are being given in the hope of inducing people to vote for the Labour Party, they're going to have a fight on their hands. They're going to have a fight on their hands. It's bribery. And you go into other constituencies. I was speaking to Brother Jamal Pringle just today. He is the Member of Parliament for All Saints East and St. Luke. And he's not giving out tanks. But his opponent is giving out tanks with taxpayers' dollars. You go into rural West, I understand also, and a similar situation obtains. That cannot be right. They are politicizing everything, and I'm saying on the eve of an election, if the idea is to give tanks to induce people to vote for the Labour Party, that is bribery, and we are going to fight them on that. So they better be prepared for a fight. If they can't run the country, just get out of the way. What they need to do is have a proper system that's non-political. Keep the politicians out of this. Give people tanks who need tanks and stop pick and choose the tanks. Stop pick and choose the tanks for who you want and friend and company and so on. They mash up the country. Everything they do, it's done with a political intent rather than an intent to satisfy the needs of people. And so, 8 years have passed. They have done nothing to solve the water crisis. But 8 weeks now, they're hustling to try to do in 8 weeks what they didn't do in 8 years. Because what? An election is coming. So it's not about people. It's just about getting elected so they can look after themselves. Time for them to go. Time for them to go. Vote them out.
And the point you made is a good point, because you look at the social programs as introduced under UPP administration that are still very much in operation today. And if it is that it is a social program that this water tank is intended to be, how then would they expect it to continue when they're out of office? And also, what would it mean to those people who really needed it and did not get?
Exactly. So our programs, we can stand by proudly and say it was not about friend and company. It was not about political affiliation. It was about meeting the needs of people. And that's very, very important. But this water tank situation is not about meeting the needs of people. And the same thing with the vouchers. Again, I heard Brother Pringle. He's a parliamentarian. He's entitled to a certain amount of vouchers according to how the system is devised. But that's not the way they're doing it. But we are totally against that approach. We feel that the approach that ought to be taken is similar to the approach that we took when we were in government. Take the politics out of it. Give people who need. Deal with people who need the help. Don't be politicizing it and deciding some people can get 10 vouchers. Some people have their pantry full of food stuff and other people are hungry. It's not right.
Another issue that you have been very passionate about is the whole establishment issue of the minimum wage committee. Some months ago, you called for it to be revitalized and for it to get going in terms of increasing the minimum wage for those who are affected. Sometime after, the Attorney General empaneled the minimum wage committee. What have we heard since then?
Nada. Nil. Nothing tal. However you want to say it. Right?
But what does that mean? How does
because
that
it's just-
affect those who,
Just the
who are waiting?
same
Yeah.
thing I was talking about before. It's not about people. It's not about people. It's just about gimmicks. It's just about coming and giving people a 6 for a 9. I raised the issue on the platform that since 2013, when the Minimum Wage Committee submitted its report, no review has been done of the minimum wage. And just in 1 year, just from last year to this year, when you look at the consumer price index, man, price of food, some gone up by 16% or something like that. The beverages, meats, you look at transportation costs, fuel costs, all of these costs have increased in some cases by over 15%. Huge increases. You go to the index and you see the huge increase. It has been a massive increase in prices. But what has been done? Nothing has been done to help people. We have spoken about the measures that we would take, reducing and removing duties on certain items to ease the squeeze on people, monitoring through price control to make sure that there's no price gouging, making sure that the supermarkets pass on the benefits to the people who are buying. That's the way you work to benefit people. So we said the minimum wage needs to be increased because the last time it was reviewed was 2013. We are now almost 10 years on, and they expect the minimum wage to suffice in today's world with the huge and steep increase in prices, especially the price of food, without a review of the minimum wage. So we say a UPP administration within the first 100 days, within the first 100 days, that's going to be a priority. We will constitute the minimum wage committee. The minimum wage committee, let us remember, it's a broad-based committee. It has on members and representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, the Employers Federation, the trade unions, civil society organizations, and all who will in one way or another be affected by any change in the minimum wage. So you don't want to be unreasonable.
Yes.
You want to make sure that everybody can live with whatever it is that is being proposed. But it must be constituted, and it is beyond doubt that there must be an increase in the minimum wage to allow people to have a living wage. And this applies to a large extent, a lot of persons who work at service stations, gas stations, a lot of people who work as security guards, persons in other areas of activity that are paid at the lower end of the income scale. We have to look out for these people. Domestic workers, we have to look out for these persons. And we have to make sure that everybody is in a position to survive. And that's why we also have the Fresh Start program. And under the Fresh Start program, we recognize that government owes a lot of businesses so much money. And we're going to address that and make sure that we can improve the cash flow of the business community in order to allow them to survive. So that even as we increase the minimum wage, we make sure that businesses can survive by introducing the Fresh Start initiative, getting the money that is owed to the business community by the government into the businesses in a structured way. We're not saying we can pay everything in one lump sum. That would not be realistic. But what happens now is not fair, is not right. And so that's what we would do to make sure that we increase the cash flow.
Another segment of workers that you have been talking about and looking out for, those ex-workers of LIAT 1974 Limited. In the news today, we heard that the union was expecting or had set a deadline of today's date to hear back from the receivers. And up to this point, they have not heard anything in terms of payment for severance and other outstanding matters where workers are concerned. What is the latest you've been hearing, and what can you say to those people who are still waiting to hear about their severance?
I can say to the workers of Liat, I can say to the workers of Caribbean Airport Services, CAS, help is on the way. The workers of Jolly Beach, help is on the way. The workers who are affected by Stanford, the collapse of Stanford,
Yes.
help is on the way. We can't promise the world, right? So let's be realistic. We can't promise the world. What we can promise are realistic solutions to ease the pain that the persons who are affected have undergone. And so, for example, for the Liat workers in particular, governments ran Liat. The shareholders of Liat were governments. How can any government look at these workers and say, we have no obligation to you? Tough luck. Suck it up and move on. Can't be right. You, government, appointed the board of management. The board of directors. The board of directors appointed the management. It is the government ultimately that has to take some responsibility. And whether you call it a legal right, a moral right, a spiritual right, or whatever kind of right it is a right. And people must be respected in this way. And so we're saying that it is a matter that we treat very seriously. We see it as a major issue that must be addressed, and we will address it. And so to the workers of Liat, we're very serious about it. We will make sure that we address that issue. To the airport, Caribbean Airport Services, similarly, because we understand that there are at least two parties who would contribute towards the payment of any severance here, Liat being one, and another private sector enterprise being the other. We will sit and speak with all concerned, and we'll make sure that we bring some relief to the workers. Now, you asked me what's the latest, and it seems to me as though the latest is that an attempt is being made to just close the door and run away from any obligation to the workers. They're now talking about restructuring the airline, which is a good thing. Nothing is wrong with that. We need to get Liat back on a solid footing. But what about the workers? You can't just walk away and say, well, tough luck, we're going to move on and you survive how you can. So we have a great plan as far as all those issues are concerned. We've given this thing some thought. And so we're saying not only just to look at the workers who have been displaced, but to invest in these workers, and we're going to create a vibrant aviation services sector using mainly the Liat workers, the CAS workers, and other workers who have aviation expertise,
Yes.
knowledge, and experience, and bring them together, and we will make sure that we create a new, vibrant economic sector in the aviation services sector, doing cargo, doing education and training, and doing repair and maintenance, and focusing mainly on brakes and other areas of expertise that they possess up at the Liat hangar.
Someone on the Facebook Live is reminding us also another group of persons very much affected by all that's happening, our pensioners, and who have not been paid for July.
Right. And well, I've said that so many times that I just want to restate it and to assure all the pensioners that we have you at heart and we have you in our minds. And we're going to make sure that we treat this as a priority. But that goes without saying. I have said it so many times. It must be addressed, and it can be addressed. We know it can be addressed.
I want for us to shift our focus a little bit for the little time we have remaining. Word is coming out that the Labour Party will now be getting their ducks in a row, ready to launch their campaign. What can you say to the people as the campaign season is expected to be heightened any day now?
Oh, yes. I mean, we launched our campaign in January, and we did it deliberately.
Yeah.
And when we launched the campaign, we said We are in this for the long haul, for the medium haul, or the short haul. Any haul you come, we ready for you. So let's say the short haul has gone. We're now into the medium haul season. If they come now, come. We're ready for them. And if they wait until next year, so much the better. Because the longer they give us, the more our candidates have time to dig in and to continue to meet with the people, to explain the policies of the United Progressive Party, and to show the nation what we can do. So, as you can see, for all the time that has passed, we've been able to roll out our programs in a strategic way. We've been able to address many of the fundamental issues. And so, as far as we're concerned, we're pacing ourselves, and we expect that there's not a lot of time left. So one way or another, the election has to be in a matter of months. So we will be monitoring the situation, and we have the campaign continues, and we are doing all those things that you need to do. And we are expecting that when the day comes, that the people of Antigua and Barbuda will respond and will give the United Progressive Party the nod and the green light to help to create a completely new situation in this country in terms of the way we govern, govern with respect for people, govern in consultation with people, govern in a manner that puts people first, govern in a way that will revive the economy and get businesses back on track, get our youth into leadership positions and promote young people and in driving the country forward. There are lots of new things that we'll do, which you'll see in our manifesto.
Yes.
So we've done the achievements. That's, as Sister Jackie said, that's retrospective.
Yes.
And then the manifesto is still to come, and that's prospective.
Okay.
So we have this thing on lock, and however they come.
Yes. So the UPP published major achievements 2004 to 2014. For persons who are sitting back waiting to hear the track record of the Antigua Labour Party for the last 8 years, let's say the last 8 years, what should we be expecting? What is their record?
I am waiting to hear what they will say, because, I mean, they really don't have any record to talk about. I mean, you ask in terms of job creation, not giving people a government job, because that's not job creation. Creating opportunities for people to really thrive in the private sector, to develop their own businesses, to create jobs so people can get employment and get good paying jobs outside of government. They've failed as far as that is concerned. The social programs, they've introduced nothing new. They've only continued the programs of the United Progressive Party. So there's nothing there for them to shout about. In terms of health, the complaints are numerous. Oh, the complaints are numerous. And so they really will be struggling. But we'll see, because, you know, I have a funny feeling that they're going to try and even claim some of the programs of the UPP. That's what they're going to be forced to do, you know. And I'm prepared to put money. They're going to try and even claim the airport. You watch them.
Yes,
they're going to try and claim the airport, you know.
When all it was done was an opening ceremony.
All they needed to do is put on a coat of paint in some of the rooms. All they needed to do is buy the drinks and the food for the opening ceremony.
Yes.
The airport was built, and, you know, let's give some credit to persons like Ambassador David Showell, who worked very hard, Mr. B.T. Lewis and others, who were part of the team who made it happen. And we brought it. The election was held in 2014, June. But by then, the airport was all but complete.
And so too was the cancer center.
So too was the cancer center. In fact, I mean, the cancer center, I think it was just for them to buy a bunch of keys or something like that. Everything was there.
Because I remember former Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer, the speech is still in my head, telling people, when the opening ceremony, put on your clothes and go up, because it is ours.
That's right.
You know, we can claim it.
So they'll probably try to claim that too.
But anyway, looking forward, the campaign is heating up. People are asking, what's next from the UPP? How can I get involved? How can we get people registered? Talk to the people as we wind down on Captain's Corner tonight. There's no doubt that the campaign is going to be ramped up in a couple of days. People need to be energized and feeling the UPP.
Well, we're saying to people, of course, whichever constituency you're in, get involved on the campaign. Get involved on the campaign. Get to meet your candidate. Get to meet the branch chairman. Get on the campaign team. Let's go there and spread the good news. Change is coming. Let's get involved and make sure that this one is on lock. So I want to encourage everyone to get your canvassing, your campaigning shoes on, and let's get out there, because there's a story to tell, and we all see what's happening in the country today. And the government, I think, have practically given up. I see them, their faces are long, their faces are miserable. You can see that they know that it's just a matter of time. I was in their company a few days ago at the funeral for Victor Babu Samuel, and they all look so sad and miserable. You mean, you know, these are
tired,
people.
Maybe.
Well, they look sad and miserable. You know what I'm trying to do? So sad and miserable because they know that the future for them is not a good one. And insofar as St. John's City East is concerned, I'm satisfied that the people have been able to compare my term when I was there with the term of the person who is now there. And the verdict is already out. They've said that he has failed them, and he is guilty of neglecting the constituency. And so he's now hustling around, trying to talk to people and trying to encourage people to give him another chance. But I think the time has definitely passed. And so it's clap, clap, out you go.
So UPP, definitely the right choice.
The right choice. United Progressive Party,
Okay.
the right choice.
And we entertain your final thought before we close off tonight.
And I just want to say to everyone, let's all stay focused and let's look forward to a new day.
And we say thank you on behalf of our listeners, viewers, everyone who participated, those of you who are having your discussion on Facebook. I've been following. Quite interesting. Thank you so very much for being part of this evening's program. We'll be back again next week, God willing. And until then, on behalf of Harold Lovell, the captain, I'm Sean Nicholas saying, over and out.
It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.